The Lone Ranger.
Hi, everybody. I'm Walden Hughes, and on the line is a really good friend, somebody I've known for many years, and I always enjoy talking to him. Dave Parker, welcome back to SPERDVAC.
Thank you. Walden, you know that I'm 99 years old. If I don't fall down, I may live to be 100. But one way or another, you guys, I have thousands of memories, most precious of which are the days I played young good guys on the radio, Lone Ranger. My mind's eye, you guys, I can see that studio with its fireplace, wall-to-wall carpet, and the hanging RCA microphone there to pick up our voices. In my mind's eye, Walden, I can see that studio with a fireplace and its wall-to-wall carpet and the hanging RCA microphone there to pick up our voice. And I can see announcer-narrator Fred Foy, gripped in hand, trembling just with the energy he was about to. And I can see the studio clock with its sweep second hand coming up to 0. And then the red light, the cue, and the voice we all know by heart. A fiery horse with the speed of light, a cloud of dust, and a hearty hi-yo silver, the Lone Ranger. Friends, I ask you to believe that there never was a better radio opening than that. Fred Foy was a genius with his voice. All the actors were perfect. Loved every minute of it.
Well, Dave?
Yeah.
How in the world do you get over to WXYZ?
I will tell you. It's an interesting story. Back in the 1940s, 1948 to be exact, I was teaching college at Wayne University in Detroit. I was teaching the subjects of radio acting, radio writing, radio directing. And it turned out that there was another guy who was also teaching at Wayne University in the radio department, and his name was Chuck Livingston, the director of the Lone Ranger. And I couldn't believe my good luck, and I said to him, Chuck, yes, what? Do you ever have auditions? Very seldom. He said, why do you ask? And I said, well, I guess I was hoping that I could audition for you. He said, looked at me. Looked at me and he said, okay, I want you to say something for me. He says, give me a home where the buffalo roam. I don't quite understand. He said, say it to me. Give me a home where the buffalo roam. No. He says, say it angrily, shout it. And I said, give me a home where the buffalo roam. Okay, he said, now to say it softly, like you're whispering it. He said, I'm saying, hey, he says, he says, why don't you come on out to the studio next Wednesday at about 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and we'll see what you sound like on mic. So I said, I surely will. And I did. I went into the studio at the Mendelssohn Mansion, and I saw all the old people, the actors whose voices I had known from childhood. And it was just wonderful. I didn't know where to sit, so I saw one vacant chair, which is especially nice. So I sat there. 30 seconds, Brace Beamer came in. He came over to me, and he said, hi. He said, let me introduce myself. My name is Brace Beamer. I sweep up around the place. but he meant that as a laugh line, so I laughed. And he said to me seriously, "We're sitting in the Lone Ranger's chair." He said, "You don't understand. You're sitting in the Lone Ranger's chair." And I realized that he was serious and that I was in the presence of the radio Lone Ranger, and who I grew to know and have great affection for. Okay, that's how that happened.
Dave, how can you describe the mansion? What did the mansion look like? Walk me through that.
It was a beautiful, beautiful place. It looked nothing like a radio studio. It looked like a mansion. And its living room was the studio. And the mansion itself was 2 stories high, maybe even 3, I'm not sure. But there was no question. It was an impressive building. And not just a standard house. This was really a mansion, the Mendelssohn Mansion. I learned that it was. And the studio was in its living room, wall-to-wall magenta carpeting, nice draperies, a fireplace, and of course a control room, hanging microphone. And it was a beautiful spot. Nothing like a traditional radio studio with its walls. So anyway, that's about all I can say, but it was a beautiful, beautiful place.
Talk about some of the actors. Who were really nice people to you, Dave? Who were really kind and very warm? Who were the really gems of the actors?
Well, let me talk a little bit about the actors. First, of course, there was Brace. Brace was serious. I saw Brace laugh. But there was, of course, Brace. There was John Todd, who was Tonto. He was Tonto from the beginning of the show to the end. George Trendle, the show's owner, fired him once for being too old. Replacement was terrible, and he could hardly wait to hire John back. John was slightly bald. He was slightly portly, serious. I respected him, and I talked with him about his role as Tonto. Tonto, as Lone Ranger, is Tonto's hero. And let me see, who else? Oh gosh, my.
How about Raleigh Parker? Any memories of Raleigh?
Yeah, Raleigh Parker was great. He was kind, thoughtful, useful, and is a very talented actor. And I liked him, and he liked me. He was exceptionally nice. Dick Beals, got to talk about Dick Beals. Dick was, oh golly, he was. What was Dick Beals?
Well, Dick was born, I think, in 27 or so? Or,
yeah. Dick stopped growing when he was 4 feet 6. And his voice was always a child's. It was wonderful. Fran Stryker had been looking for somebody with a believable little boy's voice, and Dick Beals was it. Dick was going to Michigan State at East Lansing. He would drive down to Detroit on show days, Monday, Wednesday. And Dick had a 1950 Chevrolet coupe. He was proud to show it to me and how the dealer had built up the pedals so his feet could reach. Dick had a couple of memorable moments on the show. Number one, he was perfect, and he was a perfectly nice, polite, wonderful guy. Tempted to say kid, but that demeans him. He was a wonderful actor, and because he couldn't reach the microphone, he was given a box to stand on, quickly named the Beal Box. And he stood on it. And there came the day. Brace Beamer fell over it on the air. And Brace hit the ground. His script flew all over the place. And he was furious. The minute the show was off the air, started for the control room, told Chuck Livingston to fire him. And to their everlasting credit, the other actors intervened. They said, "No, Brace, no. It's not Dick's fault." Brace finally settled down. But it was a magical moment that all of us will remember. That Brace fell over the Beal Box. But Dick, as we all know, and I think we all do know, gained a certain amount of fame and certainly fortune by playing I Am Speedy Alka-Seltzer. I am Speedy Alka, plop, plop, fizz, fizz, oh, what a relief it is. And Dick went to Hollywood and really he became a wealthy young man. And if I can say one more thing about Dick, this is interesting. Dick finally got enough money to buy an airplane, and he bought a Beechcraft Bonanza, which is the top-of-the-line complicated airplane. And he enjoyed taxiing by the control tower because he looked like a little boy flying an airplane. And the guys in the control tower had their binoculars out, and they would say, "Request age of pilot flying Beechcraft Bonanza." Child voice would come out. 35. So, with this situation here, I would like to think that you guys are smiling about all this. But anyhow, enough of Dick Beals. The other actors, Bill Saunders, he was... guys, at 99, my mind suddenly goes blank.
You're doing fine. How about Paul Hughes?
Oh, Paul Hughes. Thank you for suggesting Paul Hughes. A wonderful actor, a beautiful actor. He had gray hair, and he was portly. And he could play any part. His voice was gravelly, and it was old, and he was great for Army generals. And he was generous with his time. And interestingly enough, Chuck Livingston, who directed the show, and I need to talk to him about Chuck Livingston never congratulated any of the actors, including Paul Hughes. And Paul was so great that the other actors would say to him, "Oh, that was really great." So, yeah, Paul was well known, and everybody who knows the Lone Ranger knows Paul Hughes. And it was an honor for me to know him.
How about Jay Michaels?
Jay Michaels, I know a little bit less about. He announced, I think, the Yukon.
Yes, he did.
Was that one of his jobs?
Yep, that was his show, yeah.
That was good for me because I was also on the challenge at the Yukon. Jay was a serious professional. The mood of the studio was serious. There was no laughter, no cut-ups, no having fun moments. The Lone Ranger was a serious endeavor, and everybody knew it. There was no horseplay. It was a job. It was the day job for the actors that were on it. My day job was teaching at Wayne University, but the other actors, that was their living, and they jolly well better do what Chuck Livingston wanted them to do. They did. So that's not really answering your question, but anyhow, that's what I wanted.
Oh, describe Chuck a little more. Talk about Chuck Livingston a little more. What else?
Oh, Chuck Livingston, the guy that I met out at Wayne University. Chuck was all business. All business. 4 hours of rehearsal. Well, that show went on the air. Chuck was the mastermind behind all of it. Chuck wanted, and he got the performances he had in his mind. And that he would get on the talk back and he'd say, no. You're at a country fair. Sound happier. Come on. Don't you get it, kid? That was kind of his signature. Don't you get it, kid? He'd say that to me. Don't you get it, kid? And we all did get it eventually. Chuck was a great director. He was not the first director of the Lone Ranger. Jim Jewell was. I got a chance to talk to Jim once upon a time. But Chuck was known in the acting community. A no-nonsense man. He knew what he wanted, he knew how to get it, and he was going to get it right now. And if we didn't get it, he would stay on our case until he did. Chuck was not a friendly guy. He had no reason to be a friendly guy. He had a reason to be a professional director. Nevertheless, I enjoyed working with Chuck, and he enjoyed working with me. And the reason I know that is he kept hiring me. And that, of course, was a wonderful thing for me. I can't remember how much we got paid, but when I was on the show, there were 2 Lone Rangers. One broadcast, I think, sponsored by Cheerios, and the other one was an open-ended show that had no commercial on it, designed so that local studios could insert their own commercials. I think I'm getting off the subject here. But anyhow, guys, talk to me again.
Okay, how about Fred Flower Day?
Oh, Fred. Fred was the antithesis of Chuck. Fred was friendly. He was nice. He was complimentary. He would tell you when you're doing something good. And he enjoyed his job. You could tell that. Fred Flower Day had been a sound guy. Now the director of the Challenge at the Yukon. And I was with him on that show a lot. And it was a real pleasure, you know. Chuck was a scary guy. Fred Foy told me something. He said, you know, the actors are afraid of Chuck. I said, Fred, that can't be. He said, take it from me. The actors are concerned about Chuck, and some of them are afraid of him. Not so with Fred Flower Day. Fred was a masterful director and a friend, a real friend.
How about Ernie Winstanley?
Oh, Ernie Winstanley. Yeah. Ernie told me once, he said, you know, and he was a little bit angry about this. He said, you know, the guys are telling me that when you showed up, they said, now I've got competition. I said, Ernie, I have no idea. Well, he said, it's okay, of course, but I just wanted you to know that. And Ernie was a good guy. The 1950. Oh, he erased. I didn't just forget it. But Ernie was a total professional. He'd been a sound guy, and so he knew all about that world. But I haven't got much to say about Ernie, except he was a total professional, playing young good guys, as was I, and I liked him a lot.
How about Paul Sutton?
Paul Sutton. Sergeant Preston of the Yukon. was the announcer? Gold, gold, discovered in the Yukon that Sergeant Preston and his wonder dog, Yukon King, as they meet the challenge of the Yukon. Paul Sutton would say, on King, on you Huskies. But the barking was done by Ted Johnson, a wonderful guy. But Paul Sutton was, I thought, a little haughty, a little unnecessarily serious. But what do I know? He was what he was, and he did it very, very well. And Paul knew everything. He was a know-it-all. But anyhow, he was a professional. He did his job well. He was always there when he was supposed to be. And that's about all I got to say about Paul Sutton.
Did you ever meet George W. Trendle?
Oh, boy. Yes. George Trendle. He had an office up above the studio. He listened to every program. He listened to all the actors. If he didn't like something, the minute the show was off the air, he was on the telephone to Chuck Livingston saying, don't use that guy again. I don't like him. So we were all a little afraid of George Trendle, and nobody called him George. Maybe he braced it, I don't know. But George Trendle was the mastermind. Well, George Trendle was pivotal to the invention of the Lone Ranger, and we all know that. A lot about it. But when I'd see him in the hall, and then I occasionally did, I would always say, good morning, Mr. Trendle. And he would say, That was his contribution to him. But an essential man. He always was on top of those shows.
Talk about how did you come up with the idea to write your PhD thesis on the Lone Ranger? How did that come about?
Oh, boy. Well, as I told you, I was teaching school at Wayne University. I determined that I wanted to make university teaching my life's work. It was my serious take on it. Yeah. So, I had to get a PhD. And I had gotten my master's degree at Northwestern University in Evanston, Illinois. And now I'm returning to work on my PhD. And the first question I was asked by my sponsors was, what do you think you might want to write on for your dissertation? And as a joke, I'd laugh. I said, well, I thought I'd write it on the Lone Ranger. Instead of laughing, they said, can you talk to the producers? And I said, yes. Can you talk to the actors? And I said, can you talk to the director? And I said, yes. Can you talk to the producer? And I said, yes. They said, go for it. That's how it happened. 420 pages with plenty of footnotes. And it's recognized, and indeed in the radiogram the other day, I called it a descriptive analysis of the Lone Ranger as a form of pop. And it is being used. The other day, and by that I mean about 10 days ago, a guy who I knew as a fireman in our area knocked on my front door. Came to it, and he said, "Is the Lone Ranger here?" And I said, "Yes, I'm here. Yes, I am." And I want to tell you something, and this is a little bit off the mark here, maybe. My best friend was the daughter who was getting married. And at the wedding rehearsal, I found myself sitting next to Mother Groom. And she was charming. Her name was Jan. And we had a wonderful moment. And she got serious with me. She said, I want to tell you something seriously, Dave. I said, sure, Jan, what? She said, I try to live my life. Principles of the loan. Jan, you're putting me on. I said, no, why do you say that? I said, because I was on the show, and I wrote a doctoral dissertation on it. She said, you're putting me on. And we agreed that we had a wonderful moment together. But isn't that interesting?
Yeah, that's a great story.
Well, it is, and I didn't prompt her to say that. But the Lone Ranger's principles, as we all know, were paramount. And there's one thing about the show, guys. It was always treated seriously. Nobody ever thought to put the Lone Ranger in a joke. He was a serious, serious character in a serious drama, well known to one and all. I could tell you a little bit about his principles, but I'm not sure that you need to know that. But anyhow, guys, so far so good.
Good. Now, talk about your 420-page. How long did it take you to work on it, Dave? Was it a couple of years? How long did it take you to put it together?
Dissertation?
Yeah.
Well, there came a time when I knew that, yes, that I was going to have to do this. So at that time, I was a director at NBC in Chicago. I quit my job in order to take full time on my dissertation. And, oh man, working on a doctoral dissertation is no fun. So anyhow, in Chicago, in summer, we were in a house, my wonderful new bride, and it was hot. I had to leave the window open, and flies and mosquitoes flew in. And I'm working on my dissertation, and I'm trying to be a serious student. And it was hard. But finally, after I think maybe 2 years, it took me at least that, I finished it. Took it out to the graduate school, and I said, here it is, folks. Very much. And then the last moment of a PhD world is you face a group of critics. They said to me, Mr. Parker, page 24 of your dissertation, you spell Chinese with three E's. And on the next page, you have it with 2 E's. In my mind, I thought, all right, he said, I want you to go out into the hall, and we'll call you. So after about 5 minutes in the hall, all by myself, the door finally opened. The guy came out, and he said, Dr. Parker, will you please join us? And oh, man, guys, that was the day that it all happened for me. And I had an associate professorship at San Francisco State University, and I went directly there, and I taught school for 3 years until I realized that college teaching was not really for me. But anyhow, guys, that's kind of my dissertation story.
Talk about Fred Foy.
Fred Foy. Oh, boy. Fred Foy. The most generous, wonderful, professional guy I ever. Fred Foy was perfect. He, of course, read the copy, the announcer, narrator, perfectly. Loved him for it. There came a time early on in Fred's career, he thought he could do better in Hollywood. Many people know what I'm about. Fred quit and he went out to Hollywood. He stayed out there for about 3 weeks when he realized that there was nothing in Hollywood for him. So he came back to the studio in Detroit, and the guys had given him a gold watch. He came back. They said, "Fred, we want our watch back." And when he met Mr. Trendle in the hall, Mr. Trendle said, "Well, here's the Hollywood hotshot back to work." And not many people know that story, guys. Just you and me and whoever else is listening. But Fred was, well, I'll tell you, I invited Fred to come on out here. He was living at that time in Woburn, Massachusetts. I invited him to come out and join us for a recreation of the Ranger. And instead of saying, "Dave, are you okay?" he said, "Sure, I'd love to do it." So he did. He came on out and he joined us for a recreation of the Lone Ranger. And what a thrill. And I got to tell you, Fred does his opening, A Fiery Horse with a Speeded Light. Walden Hughes told me, hair on the back of my neck. And I thought, yeah, mine too. Okay. What else, guys?
Talk about, what was a typical day like over at WXYZ? What time did you get there? How many rehearsals did you have? Walk me through a typical day.
Well, then we had 4 hours of rehearsal to get the show on the air. And I don't know how that sounds to you, but that's not very many. Really tight. Excuse me, I got to get a little glass of water here. My voice is going nuts. Okay. We'd get there at 3 o'clock. It was on, as you all know, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Get there about 3 o'clock. We were given our script, and we were told what parts we'd. I was usually a young rancher, a stagecoach driver. On the front page, all the characters were mentioned by name. Jim. Jim, young rancher. That's all I needed to know. I didn't need to know anything else. Jim, young rancher. Livingston knew what I was going to sound like because he'd used me many times before. So anyhow, day in the life of the Lone Ranger was if we all got into the studio at 3 o'clock, we were given our scripts, who we were going to play, and we had the first run-through. All the rehearsals were on mic. Unlike Lux Radio Theater and some of the high-powered network shows, which had a table rehearsal. Table rehearsal meaning we were all sitting around a table to set our characters, etc. But not the Lone Ranger. Beginning to end, all the rehearsals were on mic. And we had a first run-through. And we had another run-through. And we had a production rehearsal where the music and sound effects were introduced. And we finished our last rehearsals, as I recall, about 15 minutes for airtime. And at that moment to take a glass of water or what. But really what to say, and I think I'm faltering here, and I'm a little embarrassed by it. But
no, you're doing great, Dave. Doing great.
Well, I'd like to think so. Talk a little bit about sound effects?
Yeah, talk about sound effects. What do you remember?
Okay, and I know you're having a sound effect guy.
Right.
That's wonderful. I didn't know him because left before he arrived.
Right.
But anyhow, sound effects are known by two categories: recorded effects and manual effects. Recorded effects are on 78 RPM phonograph records. And manual effects, footsteps, were fist shocks, were all kinds of things. And it was this show was a complicated show. Tony Caminita, who was one of the sound effect guys, Dave, he said, Chuck, when he wants to hear horse's footsteps on pebbles in a running stream, that's what he wants, and that's what he's going to get. So the manual sound effect room, and there was such, had a bathtub for water effects. Various substances to walk on, like pebbles and green grass. But sound effects are absolutely essential to the show. And our sound effect guys were so good that they were offered jobs on other shows, which they never took, but I knew them well. Don Davenport was one of them. He was a student of mine at Wayne University. And I left the show while he arrived. And he was one of, the Hengstebeck brothers, Jimmy and Bill. They were sound effect guys. And there were about two or three others, but it was a really professional group. Everybody respected them. They did fist socks for fist. The sound effect guy stood in the studio next to the actor. The actor was always given a line like, "Take that! That! Pow!" And the fist socks would come. And I'm beginning to laugh at my own stuff here. But anyhow, they were, again, a professional group. And please tell them, the guy, I can't remember his name, but he's going to be on.
Right, Paul Carnegie. Yeah, Paul. Please
tell him that how I respected the sound guys. They were great. Okay.
Let me see if Zach has any question for you, Dave. Zach, you have anything?
Say it again.
Zach might have a question for you. So hold on. Go ahead, Dave. Go ahead, Zach.
Yeah. Dave.
Yeah.
How does it feel all those years removed to realize that you were a staple in what has become an American institution? Because there is this element of the Lone Ranger that has never truly left pop culture, no matter what new comes on the scene. How does that feel in terms of your being an actor, not necessarily a doctorate level educator, but as an actor? How does that feel for you?
Well, it feels great. I mean, how could it be otherwise? I belong to a club of gentlemen, about 1,000 of them, and we occasionally do recreations of the Lone. But it humbles me, to be frank with you, and that's the right word to use. Think that I was a part of it. Not a part of it as so many others were, but I was. I was on a lot of those shows. I knew the actors. I knew the sound effect guys. I knew Fred Foy. And frankly, I'm humbled by being with you guys this morning. No, I'm serious. You're talking to me, Dave Parker, and why? Because I was on that masterful show. Mm-hmm. So I don't know if that helps you answer your question, but
no, it does. It truly does, because it's I think that because of how vast pop culture has become and the different ways we consume it, it's amazing to listen to someone as you who experienced it at a very crucial point, not just with radio, but also with the dawn of television, and seeing how you fondly recall it, like, brings a lot of perspective. And it's not, and I think your stories are essential to get on record. And I have one more question for you, if you wouldn't mind indulging me.
Sure.
So how did you have any, if you can recall, did you have any emotional response upon the form of radio drama disappearing from the national networks? Did you have any kind of reaction when suddenly things like the Lone Ranger, Suspense, the Green Hornet, all of these programs just ceased to exist in terms of airwaves?
Saddened me. It really did. And anybody who was an actor in those days was saddened. And the one thing that we have to cling to are recreations at conventions. Some of the guys, Tommy Cook and well, you can come up with it.
Yeah, Stuffy Singer, Beverly Washburn, all of those people.
Yeah, absolutely, yes. But how we felt when it was over was empty. We felt empty. For the actors on the Ranger to go from a job on Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays to no job, that was the end of the world.
I can imagine.
Yeah.
It does give me a good cheer, though, to hear that the memories haven't died, even if even if the rotation of radio drama isn't necessarily dominating a radio station these days, but the memories are so strong that it helps keep it alive for us as people of SPERDVAC. Absolutely.
Well, I love SPERDVAC and tribute to the radiogram, as you guys know. Mm-hmm. And anyhow, that's my lifeline to the. Well, guys, this has been a wonderful experience for me, and I worked out for you guys.
It did. Yeah. Walden, I think we've got enough stories to fill the hearts of everybody here at the convention.
Dave, I always love talking to you, and you're such a wonderful person to talk to, Dave. So.
Oh, thanks, Walden. I really appreciate that.
Yeah.
Well, here I am. If you ever have any second thoughts, to give me another phone call.
You bet, or I'll just email you, and we'll just keep you posted, Dave.
Oh, yeah, that's a great thing to do.
All right, pal. We'll talk to you soon.
Okay, bye, guys.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Hi-yo, Silver.
Hi-yo, Silver.